Great. Thank you very much, Evangeline, and welcome everyone. It's great to have you today. And it's an honor to welcome you to today's webinar, Undergraduate Virtual Internship Opportunities. On behalf of the NSF Includes Coordination Hub, I know we're very excited about the diverse group of presenters today and multiple opportunities that will be shared with you all. Before we begin, I would like to introduce Dr. Sylvia James to provide some opening remarks. Dr. James is Deputy Assistant Director in the Directorate for Education and Human Resources at the National Science Foundation. She's also co-lead for the NSF Includes Design Team, which is charged with the overall program design, budget, and evaluation and integration of the NSF Includes program into the larger NSF Broadening Participation portfolio. In addition, Dr. James co-chairs the Federal Coordination in STEM Interagency Working Group on Inclusion. Her distinguished career has a focus on equity, inclusion, and broadening participation in STEM. Dr. James?
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome you to the second NSF Includes webinar focused on virtual internships. I want to thank the NSF Includes Coordination Hub for hosting these webinars in collaboration with NSF Includes federal partners and colleagues at other federal agencies. Events like this help to support implementation of the Federal STEM Education Strategic Plan, which I encourage you to take a look at. With the numerous impacts of COVID-19, among them has been the challenge to continue managing and conducting substantive, productive internships. Many of us have experienced a steep learning curve of moving our work, coursework in the case of students, workshops, conferences, and important learning opportunities such as internships online. Today, we have the opportunity to hear from several agencies who've made the shift to online internships and to learn more about some of the exciting options that are available. We know that internship opportunities are important to providing experiences that are vital to pursuing STEM careers. We also know how critical internships are to broadening participation in STEM for all groups by creating pathways to move from the classroom to the workplace. I hope you'll take advantage of the opportunities provided and submit your application for an internship that aligns with your background and interests. Finally, if you are not already, I encourage you to become a member of the NSF Includes National Network and join individuals from NSF, NSF Includes projects, and federal agencies as we work collaboratively to see demonstrable progress in broadening participation and inclusion in STEM. I hope you enjoy the workshop. Thank you, and I'll turn things back over to Tim.
Thank you very much, Dr. James. So as you can see, this is our agenda for today, for the next hour. We're very excited to have a diverse group of speakers from a wide variety of federal agencies and really look forward to opening the floor to questions and providing the opportunity for all participants to learn a bit more about the other events hosted by the NSF Includes Network and our federal agency partners. Next slide, please. So just wanted to tell you a little bit about the NSF Includes initiative before we get started. It is not only a core belief in the broadening participation space, but also a long-standing core tenet of US policy that diversity catalyzes innovation. The US must be able to draw future STEM talent from across all groups to achieve the diversity that will maintain and enhance our nation's global leadership in STEM. NSF Includes aims to enhance US leadership in science and engineering by developing science, technology, engineering, and mathematics talent from all sectors of our society. By developing networks and partnerships, NSF Includes will strengthen strategies in broadening participation programs to reach underrepresented populations nationwide, and really move the needle towards equity. NSF Includes as a program is one of NSF's 10 big ideas and stands for inclusion across the nation of communities of learners, of underrepresented discoverers in engineering and science. In its mission, the NSF Includes network aims to accelerate progress towards this goal and take it to scale. The opportunity for innovation is exponential when there's infrastructure that can support the emergence of these innovations and also foster collaborations across new members, as we're doing today, for example, by really working with other federal agencies to try to support the the opportunities that exist for people to become engaged in STEM, in the STEM workforce. Next slide, please. The NSF Includes Coordination Hub works to support the national network in a variety of ways. Our primary goals are to strengthen a common vision among those working to improve equity and inclusion in STEM. We also work to broker connections among NSF Include network members and across sectors. We work with members from the research industry, from the private sector, from philanthropy, other federal agencies, to ensure that there's communication and understanding about best practices that's happening across these different sectors. We also work to measure the progress and influence across the NSF Includes network. We're working very hard to develop metrics that both projects and federal agencies can use to understand the goals that we've set forth for ourselves in increasing the participation of underrepresented communities in the STEM workforce. Are we really making progress towards that goal? We also work to promote the success of NSF Includes network members and also elevate the expertise of network members by supporting learning, action, scale, and sustainability. And finally, we aim to advance the field by sharing discoveries, facilitating engagement, and catalyzing action that improves STEM inclusion and equity. So as you can see, we have a great group of presenters today from a variety of different federal agencies. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to our presenters.
Thanks, Tim. I want to invite all of our presenters to turn their cameras on so we can introduce them. I'll talk through their bios very quickly and then we'll get started with the presentation. First up, we'll hear from Natasha White, who is a program manager with NOAA's Office of Education, Educational Partnership Program with Minority Serving Institutions. As NOAA's largest education program, its primary goal is to support the graduation and training of the next generation of diverse candidates in NOAA's mission STEM disciplines. We'll also hear from Sandra Richardson, who is a program director at the NSF in the Division of Undergraduate Education in the Directorate for Education and Human Resources, and a program lead for the Robert Noyce Teacher Scholarship Program. She manages a portfolio of awards in multiple NSF programs, and her research interests include developing effective tools for undergraduate math curricula, math teacher education, and broadening the participation of minorities in STEM majors and careers. We'll also hear from Karen Skubal, who is a program manager in the Department of Energy's Office of Science. She leads several workforce development programs that place undergraduates and faculty in research or technical projects at the Department of Education National Laboratories. She does this building on her previous experience where she managed applied research projects for DOE's Office of Environmental Management. And then we'll also hear from Travis King and Donna Burnette. Travis King is the Director for Basic Research and STEM Outreach in the Office of the Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Army. Oh, sorry, let me back up a bit. He's the Director for Basic Research and STEM Outreach in the Office of the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army. In this role, he provides strategy and oversight for the Army's basic research portfolio and STEM outreach programs. Donna Burnette is the Executive Director of Rochester Institute of Technology's K-12 University Center. She leads the team that administers the Army Educational Outreach Program's apprenticeship and fellowship initiatives on behalf of the U.S. Army. So with that said, I will turn it over to Natasha, and she will provide an overview of internship opportunities available at NOAA.
Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you to the NSF Hub for the invitation to join and share with the group today. I'm excited to provide an overview of internship opportunities at NOAA, particularly those that are offered through the Office of Education. Next slide, please. One of the things that I do want to point out is that NOAA is committed to broadening participation in STEM. NOAA has recently charged its offices with developing diversity and inclusion strategies. And part of the D&I strategy of the Office of Education is to continue and to expand our efforts to provide financial assistance through scholarships and fellowships, as well as provide hands-on experiences through internships for graduate and undergraduate students. So the program that I support, which is the Educational Partnership Program with Minority Serving Institutions, and I recognize that that's a mouthful, we are a STEM education and NOAA mission workforce program. So essentially what that means is we're charged with providing the financial support to institutions to train and educate students in NOAA mission STEM fields with the goal of ensuring that they're qualified and become eligible candidates for our future workforce. So in an effort to diversify our workforce, NOAA has put a very large investment into training and partnerships with minority serving institutions. And I noticed that some of you were signing in and introducing yourself through the chat that some of our partner institutions are represented here, including University of Texas at El Paso, Florida A&M University, Hampton University, are just among some of the minority serving institutions that we partner with. So what I'm going to be talking to you about today is some of the programs that NOAA has instituted, particularly internship programs that may offer opportunities that you may be interested in. Next slide, please. Excuse me. Unfortunately, due to the timing of this presentation, the application period for the summer 2021 internships for these particular programs ended at the beginning of this month. So I hate that this webinar didn't happen a little bit earlier, but this is for information purposes for next year, but I also have additional information for current opportunities to share. But these are our largest education and internship programs. So my program is on the top left, the EPP MSI Undergraduate Scholarship Program. This is a program that offers financial assistance during the academic year, as well as 2 paid summer internships at NOAA. So this is it's an excellent opportunity. It's almost $40,000 worth of support. And a very similar program is the Holling Scholarship Program, which also offers tuition support and 1 paid summer internship. One thing I want to mention with the EPP MSI Summer, the scholarship program, you must attend a minority serving institution in order to apply. And I will provide a link to our website so that you can become familiar with these internships, particularly for those who are educators or have mentees on the line, where you can share this information for next year's round of applications, which will be open in September. We also have the Bill LaPenta internship program that offers a paid summer internships with the National Weather Service. That's open for undergraduate as well as graduate students. And then we have the Woods Hole Partnership Education Program that provides a paid summer internship as well. So each of these programs are well established through NOAA. And like I mentioned, unfortunately, the application period for them that have passed, but they will be open for next summer. So I mentioned that there are current internship opportunities. Today, NOAA listed 14 Pathway Summer Internship programs on USA Job. And I will provide the link to apply to those in the chat. So the positions that were advertised include meteorologists, physical scientists. There were a couple of business and office support positions on there, as well as hydrologist. So participation in pathways, as well as the internship programs that are listed here on the screen, could potentially qualify you for direct hire authority with NOAA. So what that means is that if you successfully complete the EPP MSI Undergraduate Scholarship Program, once you graduate, you can be hired by NOAA non-competitively. So that's really important in our efforts to try to diversify our workforce, try to utilize laws and statutes that are on the books to help us bring our scholars and our investments in non-competitively. Next slide. So I want to offer a bit of advice, and perhaps I don't want to, I'm going too fast, but I want to offer a bit of advice about what we look for for a successful application. So one thing you want to do when you're applying to scholarships and internships is you want to start early. And even though the application period for the programs that I listed are currently closed for summer 2021, summer 2022 could be the time when you're able to come and intern at NOAA. So now's the time to go to NOAA's website and see what's required for these scholarship applications. You're more than likely going to have to write an essay, and you're more than likely are going to have to be familiar with the offices associated with the internship program. So you want to take some time and do your research and know the agency that you're applying to. Don't repeat your resume or your CV in your essay. So whomever is reviewing your application will also have access to your resume or your CV. So tell them something that they don't know that's not on your resume and your CV to make you stand out. So talk about your internships from the perspective of what you gained and how you grew from those experiences. So be creative when you're writing those essays. And you also want to talk about why you're interested in those opportunities. Great effort is taking into, at least at NOAA, into reviewing student applications. We have applications from 4.0 students, so we're seeing all A's on your resume. You're writing an excellent essay about how this opportunity is going to help you grow, but why are you interested? What are you going to do with this opportunity? If your essay specifically states that you want to be a meteorologist and you're taking advantage of every opportunity and you see yourself working at NOAA, that's what you want to put in your application and in your essays, because you want to make sure that you're standing out prior to, during the application process, sorry. And also be sure to proofread. So one of the most careless mistakes that we've seen even just most recently in our applications process is not just a number of misspellings in essays and in resumes, but also just not paying particular attention to detail with regards to application requirements. So a lot of times when you're applying for student opportunities, you have to submit an official transcript. And I know in a COVID environment that may not be as easy as it is when you can go to places in person, but just pay particular attention to what is required. And also be thoughtful in whom you ask to refer you, to provide a letter of reference for you. Be sure that that person can speak to your abilities and will speak truthfully and positively about your abilities. So last summer, just prior to the onset of COVID, NOAA scholars, there were about 150 NOAA scholars set to complete internships across the country. And then all of the NOAA offices essentially just shut down. And so we had several meetings within my office to determine if it was feasible for us to even host those students in a virtual environment, whether the NOAA offices were going to be receptive to hosting these students virtually, because this is not something that we'd ever done. And we decided to take on the challenge. And I'm happy to say that our scientists, as well as our administrative offices, were all very resilient, and we hosted more than 200 virtual internships last summer, and we're on task to do just the same this summer, because as of now we still do not have access to NOAA facilities. So any scholar who's coming to NOAA for the summer 2021 is likely going to be doing that internship from their computer. And based on the feedback from participants in last summer's internships, they gained very good usable knowledge from those experiences. Of course, it's not going to be the same as you can't network as much, but there can be some networking in a virtual environment. But the interpersonal piece is what was lost on the students. So I just want to say that NOAA is definitely committed to hosting additional virtual internships, but we're looking forward to being able to go back to the traditional format. We do see that we can likely reach more people with these virtual internships, so perhaps that could be an option for the future. But I just want to encourage anyone who's interested to please contact me. I will put the links to that USA Jobs for the Pathways opportunities in the chat, as well as the link to the Office of Education website, where you can view all of the student opportunities available at NOAA. And that completes my presentation.
Thank you so much. So very great opportunities and even better insider tips. So thank you, Natasha, for sharing the opportunities at NOAA. Up next, we have Sandra Richardson, who will speak to undergraduate virtual internship opportunities at the National Science Foundation. Sandra?
Thanks, Alyssa. I also bring my greetings. It's just so wonderful to see so many of you online today. So thank you for joining us. It's a delight and a privilege for me to participate in this webinar to talk with you. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity and looking forward to continuing to answer your questions and hear more from you. So I will share a little bit of information with you about some NSF-funded internship opportunities. As mentioned, I am a program director in the Division of Undergraduate Education, and most of my work and the work of my division really focuses on the undergraduate college student and the undergraduate college faculty member. So in my very brief remarks today, that's sort of the population that I'm thinking about as I talk about our virtual internship opportunities. Next slide, please. So you've heard this acronym NSF mentioned a few times today, but I'm just going to spend a minute or less to just tell you a little bit about NSF. So we are the National Science Foundation. We're one of the independent federal agencies that's created by Congress, been around since 1950. But probably what's most important and what we're known for is being the primary funding source for about a third of the total federal budget for basic research that happens at the college or university level at U.S. institutions. So we have a number of directorates, 7 directorates, so 7 units sort of at the agency that's really focused on carrying out NSF missions. One of those directorates is the Education and Human Resources Directorate, which is the one that I'm in, so EHR. And EHR in particular is focused on supporting science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, so STEM education, across all grade levels. So we like to say from the cradle to the grave, so from pre-K all the way to grad school and then beyond grad school. So there was a question earlier in the chat about if any of these opportunities are applicable to the graduate student population. So I'll say while I work primarily with undergraduates, some of these opportunities are also eligible opportunities for the graduate student population. So, you know, one of our missions at NSF is to make sure that there will always be plenty of skilled people available to work in existing STEM fields, new STEM fields, emerging STEM fields. And so that's why we really value internships, because we see internships as a pathway for preparing this next generation of scholars and workers for these STEM fields. Next slide, please. So like all the organizations and federal agencies that you'll hear from today, NSF is really serious about its broadening participation efforts. To do all of the work that I just described, we are very focused on strengthening STEM education through specifically broadening the participation and inclusion of several groups in STEM and in the STEM workforce. And so on this slide, you can just see a subset of those groups in particular that we want to ensure are well represented in the work that we do. So certainly individuals from underrepresented backgrounds, even institutions. So individuals who are enrolled at minority serving institutions, as an example, or women's colleges. We're interested in informal institutions, even sometimes. And then we like to also remind people that as a part of broadening participation, we also are interested in geography. So geographical and rural areas, as an example, is an area that we look at when we talk about broadening participation. So as I'm talking today, I want you to think about these things and just think about the population that you come from, the institution that you're at, the region of the country that you're in, as you think about if you're eligible for some of these opportunities. Next slide, please. So the first opportunity that I'll talk with you about, and I'm primarily, due to time, just going to mention 2, is the Summer Scholars Internship Program that NSF has a funding role in. This is an annual program, and the mission of the program is really to develop undergraduate and graduate students' potential through exposing them to relevant science and engineering policy environments or science and engineering research, science and engineering education, science engineering programs, with the long-term goal of really encouraging these students to consider additional education in the STEM disciplines, so graduate education, STEM workforce. So that's sort of all of the culminating goals for this particular program. As a part of this internship, again, both undergraduate and graduate students have the opportunity to work at NSF for a 10-week summer experience. And as you likely know, to work this year means to work from your computer. So this will be a virtual opportunity. In past years, it has, of course, been you come to NSF physically. But virtual opportunity to participate in a 10-week summer experience, to work in an office at NSF that aligns with the students' academic interests and perhaps even the students' experience or background. So we currently offer summer internships through 2 organizations, and you see them on this slide here. The Quality Education for Minorities Network, known as QEM, and also HACU, which is the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. Those are the 2 organizations that we get our interns from for this particular program. And that's important because you need to go to those respective organizations' websites to actually pull the application material and find out more about the program. One of the sites that you're placed at will be at NSF. So I've been fortunate to have both QEM and HACU interns in my office and have had very pleasant experiences working with the interns, and have talked a lot about both the application process and the mentoring process during the internship. So as our previous presenter mentioned, one of these programs has an application deadline that has expired. So HACU's had an application deadline that was earlier this month, but QEM's the application deadline is not until March. So if there are undergraduates or even graduate students who are interested in either of these opportunities, both programs focus on helping minorities in particular gain exposure to working in STEM-related environments. I want to encourage you to go to the link. You'll have access to these links so that you can learn a bit more about the programs for both of them. But although HACU's deadline has passed, I want to encourage you to think ahead, think about 2022. We expect that these programs will still be around and that at NSF we will still welcome the interns. So please consider these opportunities for the following year as well. Next slide, please. Many of you may also be involved in right now or expect to be involved in the future or want to be involved in some form of undergraduate research. And if you're interested in undergraduate research, especially within the STEM disciplines, I want you to please look closer at the NSF-funded Research Experiences for Undergraduates program. So we call them REU programs. Again, these are efforts that NSF funds, but the application comes from other places. So we have REU sites probably in every state in the country. They're spread out throughout the nation. So what I want you to do, what I'm charging you with doing, if you know you're interested in undergraduate research, go to the REU sites program to look to see if there is a site near you or maybe not near you. You don't necessarily have to participate in a local site because again, this year, almost all of these opportunities will be virtual. And so you'll get an opportunity to actually complete your internship from your computer. Just as an FYI, undergraduate research really deals with conducting an investigation that makes some type of creative or original contribution to the discipline. It's really common to see undergraduates conducting these types of research experiences in STEM disciplines. We encourage it. We know the benefit of it. So even if you have not thought about it, I encourage you, especially if you're in a STEM major, and again, there are some REU for graduate programs as well, that you look at these as possible opportunities and find out, you know, the application window varies depending on which program you're interested in. It varies across disciplines. It varies across application requirements, what you actually have to submit with the application. So just click on this link, the RAU Sites program link, to just find out more information about where these programs actually are, and that will help with your actual interest in learning more. I'll also add, it's really important to know that the students are granted stipends in many of these cases. In a normal year, you'll have the opportunity to also receive housing and travel support. So beyond 2021, it's really important for you to think about 2022 as well as potential opportunities, and just keep this website in mind. Next slide, please. So lastly, I'll just say that I think all of our panelists will echo, we will have similar advice. It's really important that you begin to create a network. And so when I taught, I would tell my students, talk to your professors, talk to your fellow classmates about summer opportunities. I remember my professor, and I did the same for my own students. I would make sure they were aware of these opportunities, but oftentimes if students don't interact with you outside of class, you don't have an opportunity to have those kinds of conversations. So it's really important for you to create a network where you have folks that have expertise in knowing what types of opportunities are available. And then it's really important for you to invest the time in identifying those opportunities. So it's very rare that folks are going to knock down your door and say, please, please, please apply for this program. You have to take some initiative yourself, and the fact that you're on this webinar says a lot. So take some initiative, figure out what funding opportunities are actually available. What do you want to do? What type of internship are you actually in? And you can answer those questions by talking to people. And certainly it's really important to find a mentor. So find someone who can probably help you navigate this whole application process, find out information about what's available. And then my last words of advice is just to enjoy. We sometimes get very wrapped up in the whole process, and you forget that this is really an experience that could potentially shape not only you as a person, but shape your career path. So I as an example, did RAUs when I was in college every year. And that certainly put me on the career trajectory that I landed in. So I want to encourage you to take some time to actually enjoy the experience as you're gathering all this information and certainly learn from it. I will pause here and turn it back over to Alyssa.
Thanks so much. Thanks for the valuable information and advice. I just wanted to acknowledge that we know that this is a lot of information to absorb, and I see questions around what are these acronyms. We've included links, and it's just so much. So we just want to reiterate that we will be sharing the recording, the PowerPoint, all the resources from this webinar so that you can look at it and absorb it at your own pace. So up next, I do want to make sure that we stay on time. Up next, we'll hear from Karen Skubal from the Department of Energy's Office of Science.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm really excited to share some information about student programs offered by the Department of Energy, or DOE as we call it, especially the ones from DOE's Office of Science and the DOE National Laboratories. Next slide, please. Having an internship in a national lab can really be a life-changing experience and give you an edge for graduate school or for a career in STEM. But before I talk about internships, I want to describe what the Office of Science does. Next slide, please. Let me start with this overview slide. The Office of Science is actually the largest supporter of physical sciences in the US, and it has 6 program offices, which are shown here, that manage the research it supports. And so these offices cover most of the areas for our internships. The first program office is the Advanced Scientific Computing Research Program, and it focuses on developing and deploying computational and networking capabilities that allow researchers to analyze and model and predict really complex phenomena that are relevant to DOE's mission. This includes topics in artificial intelligence and quantum computing, and also the development of new supercomputers. The second office is Basic Energy Sciences, and it focuses on understanding matter and energy at the most fundamental levels, especially for new energy technologies that support DOE's mission in energy and the environment and also national security. So some examples of the research it supports would include trying to create artificial photosynthesis systems, or discovering and designing new materials that have unique structures or properties. For example, those that would be used in next generation batteries, or using electrons and neutrons and X-rays to try to probe and analyze materials so that we can understand their composition and structure and function. The third office here is biological and environmental research, and it focuses on complex biological and biogeochemical systems and how they underlie challenges like climate change and environmental cleanup, and also sustainable fuels, biofuels. This program also develops Earth system models that include the atmosphere, land masses, oceans, sea ice, and also the subsurface. And these models, of course, can help inform our national policies concerning climate change, for instance. The fourth office is the Fusion Energy Sciences program, and it focuses on plasma physics. And the ultimate goal of this program is developing fusion energy systems, which would have no carbon emissions to the atmosphere and produce a lot less radioactive waste than current nuclear energy does. Then we have the High Energy Physics program, and this looks at elementary constituents of matter and energy, the interactions between them, and also the nature of space and time itself. It covers scales from outer space down to the smallest particles, dark matter and dark energy. And this program also supports research to develop new accelerator technologies. And then finally, we have the Office of Nuclear Physics. And this office, along with the National Science Foundation, funds almost all basic research in this area in the US. And so it examines the building blocks of matter, the origins of nuclei, and also the forces that transform matter. So that gives you a taste of what the Office of Science supports. Next slide, please. So the question is, where does all this research take place? Where does it get done? Well, a significant portion of it is done at universities through grants, but DOE also has 17 national laboratories that are really critical to DOE's R&D mission. 10 of them, the ones shown in blue, dark blue on this map here, are managed by the Office of Science within the Department of Energy. But all 17 labs are involved in our programs for students. And I just want to point out that DOE's labs have unique and typically interdisciplinary scientific capabilities that really go beyond the scope of what industry or academia can offer. And in addition to the national labs, the Office of Science also manages 27 user facilities. And these are specialized federally sponsored research facilities that are available for open access use. They don't charge user fees for non-proprietary work, and they don't compete with the private sector. So this would include things like supercomputers or high intensity X-ray, neutron, and electron sources, which we call light sources. Nanoscience facilities, we have accelerators, we have genome sequencing facilities, and fusion or plasma physics facilities, and also environmental monitoring capabilities. So as an intern at a lab, a national lab, you might be able to work with some of these user facilities as well. Altogether, I want to point out that the national labs employ more than 30,000 scientists and engineers. So we hope you'll keep the national labs in mind as you think about your future career in STEM. Next slide, please. Okay, so getting into why DOE has a role in science and engineering education, we've actually spent more than 60 years training and educating scientists and engineers in the US. And the Office of Science pursues this role mainly through supporting students, undergrads, grad students, and postdocs on research and development awards and projects at universities and also at the national laboratories. My office, the Office of Workforce Development for Teachers and Scientists, also has special internship programs. We support more than 1,400 research internship opportunities annually, and also graduate training opportunities at the 17 DOE national labs. And then the 6 program offices I just described also have some of their own unique programs specific to the fields that they are involved in that aren't adequately addressed by other federal programs. And so some of these specialty programs are in computational science, accelerator science, and nuclear chemistry. But aside from all this, each individual national laboratory also has its own programs for students, including internship programs. And so I encourage you to find out more about those programs by checking out the lab's individual websites. And so in this talk, I'm also not going to focus on our program for PhD candidates, which is the Office of Science Graduate Student Research Program, or SCGSR, or our program for faculty and students, which is the visiting faculty program. But I encourage you to check out our website to learn more about those opportunities. Next slide. The first program I want to focus on for undergraduates is our Science Undergraduate Laboratory Internships Program, or SULI. This is a stipend-based internship program. Stipend's currently $600 a week, plus travel and housing costs are covered. Even for virtual internships, which we've been doing, we cover housing costs. So as an intern, you'll work with scientists or engineers who become your mentor on a research project. You'll also be able to participate in professional development activities. These include brown bag seminars and networking events, maybe technical writing training, things like that. And that varies by laboratory. And we have 17 DOE national laboratories and facilities, user facilities, participating in the SULI program right now. The program lasts for 10 weeks during the summer term, and we also offer it during the fall or spring term for 16-week periods. And the eligibility requirements you can see here, you have to be an undergraduate at a community college or a four-year college. You have to be a sophomore through a senior, or you can be a recent graduate. So if you've gotten your bachelor's degree within the last 2 years preceding the internship, you're also eligible. And I'd like to point out with some excitement that we'll be opening the SULI program to freshmen starting in summer 2022. We do have a minimum cumulative GPA requirement of 3.0, and you have to be at least 18 years old and be a US citizen or a legal permanent resident to apply here. Unfortunately, the application period for our summer 2021 internships has already passed. That application period is already closed. Typically, the summer term applications open in mid-October and they run through early January. Applications for the fall term are coming up. Those will open in mid-March. And application period for the spring 2022 term will open in mid-July. And you can find all these key dates at our website. And we also post them on our homepage. Next slide, please. The second undergraduate program I want to talk about is the Community College Internships Program, or CCI. And this program is exclusively for community college students. Again, it's very similar to SULI. It's a paid internship program, $600 a week stipend plus travel and housing costs. Students will work with a lab researcher or technician who becomes the mentor on the project on technology-based projects. So instead of performing research, you'll be involved in a technically focused project, perhaps learning and training on a specialized piece of equipment at a DOE laboratory. You'll also be able to participate in the same professional development activities as the SULI students, which again involves seminars and professional development activities like technical writing training, things like that. Both of these internships also include social activities. So that's sort of a fun aspect of this cohort-based internship program. You're going to be engaged in social activities with other SULI and CCI students. The CCI program is currently offered at 16 DOE laboratories and facilities, and it's also offered in summer, fall, and spring. It's 10 weeks in duration for each of these terms. And some laboratories have flexible schedules because we know that sometimes community college students have jobs and families and might be non-traditional students, so the labs sometimes accommodate that. Eligibility requirements are similar as for SULI. You have to be enrolled in community college, however, full-time. You have to have a minimum GPA of 3.0, be at least 18 years old, and a US citizen or legal permanent resident. And I'd just like to pause here with a few tips for applying to our programs. This has been said before, but don't procrastinate. Start your application early. Request your recommendations early from people who know you well and your skills and work habits. Read the application requirements very carefully, and importantly, make sure you remove birth dates and social security numbers from your transcripts, because that type of personally identifiable information is not allowed. And then use the essays to really express your interests and the motivation you have towards a STEM career. And finally, just want to conclude by saying you don't need research experience to apply to our internships. So don't be held back by the idea that you're not qualified for these. This is for learning purposes. We want you to gain research experience and project experience through our internships. And with that, I'll close it, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So many valuable opportunities across the undergraduate spectrum. So we're really happy to hear that. Next up, we have Travis King and Donna Burnette. and they will be speaking about the Army Educational Outreach Program.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here this afternoon. I'm really excited to see so many students on the webinar. That's pretty cool. So just a little background, then I'll turn it over to Donna. But so it seems like the world's changing at a really, really fast pace these days. We have huge challenges like the COVID, global climate change, and who knows what's next. But the Army and the nation really see an ever-increasing need for STEM literate citizenry to help solve these problems. STEM pervades our life more and more and more. I think we all see that. So, you know, the growing need for STEM literate citizens, world-class STEM professionals, the people who teach them, it's starting to go beyond the traditional STEM disciplines like science, engineering, math, to include things we might not think of, like advanced manufacturing, like business management technologies that increasing, and logistics that increasingly rely on artificial intelligence and information technology. I'm sure there are many other examples you could think of. And like I said, in addition to STEM literate citizenry, we need STEM savvy educators to train the next generation of innovators and professionals so the nation can maintain its technological, national security, and economic advantages that we all really enjoy the benefits of. So to inspire and attract the next generation of STEM talent, and a generation of talent that we hope truly represents the nation's diversity, the Army Educational Outreach Program, the AEOP, offers students from kindergarten all the way through graduate school and starting this year, postdoctoral fellows, a cohesive portfolio of STEM enrichment activities, STEM competitions, and today's topic, paid research experiences. In order for the Army to create these top-notch experiences that have really been nationally recognized, we work with partners. We partner with a consortium of academic and nonprofit partners. We absolutely cannot do it without them. By working with them, we are able to leverage the best practices and lessons learned from across our whole portfolio of programs to deliver really great content to our participants. One of our partners is the Rochester Institute of Technology, who among other things leads our apprenticeship and internship programs. So to speak a little more about that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Donna Burnette from RIT. Donna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. King. I appreciate the welcome. Can I get the next slide, please? All right, we're going to go to the next slide. Thank you. Everybody, I'm so happy to be here with you today. My name is Donna Burnette, and I have the best job in the whole world because my job is to help people, young people like yourselves, get matched with opportunities to explore their interests, to grow their skills, to dream their future, and to achieve it. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. So my office, you can reach us at AEOP apprenticeships at rit.edu. This is the help desk for the AEOP apprenticeships. So you're going to see this come up in the slides. You'll have it sent to you. I've posted it in several Q&A responses, but if you have questions, send them our way. So for AEOP apprenticeships, you're going to be immersing yourself in a world of research. We have locations nationwide at U.S. Army research laboratories and centers, as well as at university laboratories that are funded, sponsored by the Army Research Office. You get to be part of the long history of discovery and innovation for the benefit of the nation. I think that this is the special sauce. You're doing research that matters. You're in the room where it happens. We are doing work in all different STEM disciplines. We have a long list of locations and project descriptions that I posted ad nauseum probably for you in the Q&A. But you could link to that right from our usaeop.com website. So go to apprenticeships there, and then you'll see the locations list. We have summer, semester, and year-round opportunities, and all apprentices receive an educational stipend. And those amounts vary by duration, education level, and the location that you're based out of. Next slide, please. So one of the key things of our apprenticeships is you're working under the direct mentorship of a professional scientist or engineer, and usually more than one. So as previous speakers alluded to, you want to be building your network. This mentor is going to become your recommender of the future. They're going to help you negotiate not just your laboratory and research skills, but your personal choices. Should I go to graduate school? Should I pursue a career right away? What am I going to do next? With the AEOP, you're going to receive ongoing support, not just from that mentor, but we offer centralized resources out of the RIT team. So you're going to connect with other apprentices located throughout the country, attend skill building webinars, webinars on hot careers where we feature different Army and DoD scientists. So we really want to build you up, not just again in those skills, but everything else you need to get to your next step in your career. Next slide, please. So with our application, you can apply to as many as 5 locations with 1 application. And the application is linked directly on that usaeop.com website. When you're making decisions, think about the lab or project description and make sure it aligns with your interests. If you are looking at, we have virtual and in-person opportunities, and you never know what's going to happen this year. We switched to virtual last year for many opportunities, so I encourage you to apply, and if you need it to be a virtual for you, write that right into your personal statement. But if you're going to be local, make sure you can get to the location selected. That's big. And pay attention to any special application requirements or eligibility requirements in our locations list. Everybody here spoke to the need for you to really pay attention to that personal statement and sell yourself. So what I want to add here is open the door for yourself. So many of you have asked in the questions, well, am I eligible to apply if I have A or B or C? Apply. It's not going to happen if you don't try. So open that door for yourself and take opportunities that come before you. Thank you. I'm all set.
Thank you. And I wanted to invite all of the panelists now. We have some time for Q&A. So the panelists can turn their cameras on, and the co-PI of the Coordination Hub, Leslie Goodyear, will facilitate Q&A.
Thanks so much, Alyssa, and thanks to our panelists for sharing some great information. Thanks for turning your cameras back on too. We have, I think, 1 billion questions. This is great. There've been so many questions, it's been hard to keep up. A lot of them are similar, but there's a couple still in the chat that are in the question and answer pod and in the chat that I thought I would make sure we get information from all of the panelists. They've been popping up. Can we clarify, are international students, can international students apply for your internships is one of them. Do you need to be an undergraduate, or could you be a graduate student is another one of them. And I'm trying to think of one of the other ones. Will all of the internships this year be virtual? Those are 3 that have been popping up and have been variously answered from different agencies. And if we could just get a quick round robin on those, that would be really great. So, can international students apply for your internships?
So Army AEOP is open to US citizens and legal permanent residents only. Donna can chime in if there are any exceptions, but I am not aware of any. I got a thumbs up, okay.
NOAA is available for US citizens and nationals only.
Right.
Yeah, same for National Science Foundation.
Right.
Yeah, DOE's internships are for US citizens and legal permanent residents.
Okay, thank you. I thought I saw that come up a number of times in the chat, but I just wanted to make sure we had that clear. And will all of your internships be virtual this summer for 2021?
For NOAA, as of now, we're saying yes until the agency opens its facilities up to visitors. All internships will be virtual. We have some isolated exceptions where students are being allowed to go out on ships, but it's mostly virtual. I will say yes.
Okay.
The Department of Energy will probably have a mixture of virtual and on-site internships. We've had mostly virtual internships during the past couple terms, but I expect at least some will be on-site in summer.
Great.
The AEOP, sorry.
For National Science Foundation, there will be a mix. As I mentioned earlier, the Summer Scholars Program will be virtual, but there are some research experience for undergraduate programs that will be in person on individual campuses, but those are rare.
Great.
And for the AEOP, It is a mix also. Right now, most are default listed as in-person, but we are prepared to switch to virtual if need be.
I noticed that in the chat that it came up. So it's possible that when someone's looking for an internship, it looks like it's in person, but they should clarify that they're seeking a virtual internship or that it's virtual this year. We suspect it might change for 2022.
That's correct. My guidance would be to write into the personal statement or any place you have an essay opportunity what you need for yourself. So same thing with regards to if you're planning to take a summer class or are asking about a specific day that you need off, make that clear so that you can open that line of communication with a selection person.
That's great advice. So I would open up the floor for any other great advice. I know each of you shared some tips and tricks in your presentations, but we heard questions about things like, do I need to have done research before? Can I be a first-year student? Can I have a job while I do the internship? Can I take classes while I do the internship? And we also heard, how do I distinguish myself in the application process? Do any of the panelists have a quick thing they want to say to any of those types of questions that would help people in their application process?
So I'll start. I think the response will vary depending on the program. So I'll start with that caveat. Some opportunities will certainly allow for you to maintain a full-time job, but there are other opportunities where you would need to be available from the standard, whatever, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. period. So I think you just need to, do a little more research on the individual program that you're interested in. Mm-hmm. For National Science Foundation, as an example, the research experiences for undergraduate program, those really vary by the institution that is the host. And so some of them have fixed hours, but others have, afternoon hours. I would not recommend a normal, 40-hour-a-week job while you're doing an internship. Even if it's allowable, you really won't get the full experience. And most of the internships really require sort of focus work, and the rationale for providing a healthy stipend is to sort of mitigate expenses that you may incur and have to pay with a regular job. So most of the internships pay well enough to sort of supplement as needed. So I would not recommend it, even if it's allowable, that you continue to work. And I'll stop there in case other folks want to add on.
That's great. That's really great advice. Anyone else want to add on? Donna, I saw that you answered the question about whether doing an AEOP apprenticeship.
That's correct. I think I pressed the wrong button over here originally, but AEOP is not recruiting to the military. So it is open to anybody. Our main goal here is we are funded with the purpose of creating a STEM literate citizenry for developing our future STEM workforce. So this is a great way that you're being invested in. So I encourage everybody to take advantage of these opportunities.
Yeah, I'd like to come in over the top and just let people know, because sometimes people don't realize this. The Army employs about 330,000 civilians across our entire workforce. About 25 to 30,000 of those are our scientists and engineers. We also hire lawyers, accountants, business people, people to do maintenance on our facilities. So there's just a huge spectrum of opportunities for employment with the Army. Over.
So my takeaway, oh, go ahead, Dr. White.
I was just going to say this, I was echoing what Travis was saying, that we have a range of opportunities at NOAA, and we're particularly interested in having social scientists, those who understand the human dimensions associated with the science that we study. So people who are interested in understanding how hurricanes might impact the economics of an underrepresented community. So those people interested in those aspects of research are important to NOAA as well. And welcome to apply to our internship programs.
Thank you for that. I know that there's an answer in the Q&A as well about psychology students working with internships, and about how there are definitely REUs available for those as well. And I heard before that the job of the applicant is to talk about what it is they want to pursue and what's their passion and why they are right for the internship, regardless of their particular discipline. So they can apply and suggest why this is the right place for them to be. And you all will take the applications and consider them. And I also heard one major big tip and trick, which is start early. Many of these are not any longer open for 2021, but they are open for 2022. So start now. And Alyssa, I'm sure you're going to share about where everyone can find all of these resources so that they can start now and start planning for 2022 and 2021.
Thanks. And I want to just give a huge thanks to our presenters. Thanks again, such a great presentation. And as we've said, we'll be sharing this in the online community. We also want to acknowledge Nafisa Owen at the National Science Foundation, who was instrumental in bringing all of these panelists together. And we want to thank her for her work and her team in bringing everyone together for this fabulous webinar. Just additional resources which we will post on the website. On the next slide, we have a summary of NSA's National Cryptology School. I think I saw in the chat some interest in cryptology. So we will post this in the online community for folks to access. There's also on the next slide a summary of NASA's internships and contact information there. And the next slide includes, and I know I'm going through this fast because we're at time pretty much, but you can look at this later. The next slide shows just a snapshot of NSF's frequently asked questions regarding COVID as it relates to RAU site. So we will be sharing this after the webinar. You can look at it and absorb it. So we want to thank you all, and I will turn it over to Evangeline, who will wrap it up for us. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Alyssa. And once again, thank you to all our presenters. I know there are a lot of questions that everyone still has, but like we mentioned, if you join the NSF Includes National Network, we've shared the link a couple of times. You can continue the conversation in the online community. And as I'm talking about the national network, there are great opportunities and resources available there. So there are upcoming events, funding opportunities. If you're working in STEM, there are a lot of resources available for you. It's a discussion forum where you can ask questions, engage in conversations, and there are, folks from different walks in life and all working towards broadening participation in STEM, so you can learn from experts in the field and you can learn from peers in the field. So I do encourage you to join the network. And you can also follow us on Twitter. The Twitter handle is right there. And just to wrap up and say that we will be sharing the recording, the slides, and any other resources that have been shared today with everyone who registered for the webinar. So you will be receiving an email. And again, like I mentioned, if you join the National Network online community, we can continue this conversation even with our panelists post the webinar. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you once again to the panelists for such a great presentation, and thanks for all the great questions that you all kept coming. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day wherever you've joined us from. So thanks and take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Here's to great internships.